Hello and welcome everyone. I welcome you all.
Okay, so shall we begin?
Right, so I think this is your first class of geography.
So, what is reminder theorem?
So the RBI comes with a bulletin.
For example, citizens also and non-citizens also. So it is clear now. So abolition of
What is a society made up of?
Just do this exam, better your life is settled.
Getting my point? So the characteristic, as you can see here, agriculture was there.
And atmosphere is made up of what? Can say it is made up of gaseous.
And the loans will be credited to your account. Wherever you want, you can swipe this card.
Ax plus 1 divided by A. Here 33 by 8. 33 is 32 plus 1.
It went from fact-based to substantive knowledge, which means you can only answer the question if you have understood the topic.
Was it mixed? Was it socialist? Was it communist? Was it capitalist?
Excluding food and excluding energy. Core inflation does not include. Let's say you are calculating GDP of 2023-24. So when you are calculating GDP of 2023-2024, remember you have to have the final value of goods and services. Let's say you produced one pen. So that would be the final value of that pen you will add, right? Now, if you are calculating GDP of 2023-24 and the values that you are taking, values as in the value of money, you are adding basically the value of money. If you have produced 10 pens, what are the cost of 10 pens? One pen is 100 rupees, so 10 pen would be 1000. So that pen's value you can either take of the same year, जो साल की GDP calculate कर रहे हैं, the year for which you are calculating GDP, you can take the value of the pen for that same year, right? That is one way. Other way is you can take the value of a base year, which will be different than that particular year. Okay? So 2023-24 ki calculate, you are calculating and you take the value of the pen of 2023-24 only. The other way could be you are calculating the GDP of 2023-24 and you are taking the value of the pen of 2011, for example. दो अलग-अलग conditions हो गई है, right? One is the same year, the other is the base year. So when you calculate GDP of a year by taking the value of the same year, that is known as nominal GDP. Nominal GDP. Nominal GDP. When you are calculating GDP by taking the value at the base year, then that is known as real GDP. Clear? Why are we doing this? अब लॉजिकली स्पीकिंग आप लोगों को तो यही लगेगा कि जो साल की जीडीपी कैलकुलेट कर रहे हैं उसी साल की वैल्यूज लीजिए. Logically speaking, we'll think that whichever year's GDP we are calculating, we should take the value of that particular thing of that year only, right? Yes. So why we are doing this? So why is there a need for base year? Good. He's coming on to a good point. Growth perspective. तो growth perspective तो पता चलेगा ना, you calculate like this or like that. Why not to calculate this by taking the value of the same year? If I'm calculating GDP of 2020, take the values of 2020. 2021, take the values of 2021. 2022, take the values of 2022. Simple. So why am I not doing that? वो बेस ईयर 10 साल पुराना. Why is that base year 10 years old? Sorry?
Based on the value of that book, sir. Whether the value of that book is increased or not.
Okay, fine. Okay. So, the gross domestic product basically tells you the capacity of a country, how much a country can produce, right? How much India can produce. Let's say, we want to become a $10 trillion economy. So when we become $10 trillion economy, that means we are producing goods and services worth $10 trillion, right? So GDP is there to understand.
Hello and welcome everyone. I welcome you all.
Okay, so shall we begin?
Right. So I think this is your first class of geography.
So what is reminder theorem?
So the RBI comes with a bulletin.
For example,
The
citizens
price
also.
of which year we are taking into account is very important. Why is it important? It is because there is a concept of inflation. There is a concept of inflation. 50 years ago, or few years ago, few decades ago, the value of rice would be, let's say, 5 rupees per kg. Right? Now the value of rice is what? An optimum quantity of rice, 60 rupees per kg. It's more than 10 times. It's 12 times. Right? So if let's say in 30 years the values have changed so much, that means what? Every year the value is changing. So if I produce this pen in 2020, its rate would be, let's say, rupees 50. In 2021, its rate would be, let's say, rupees 55. In 2022, its rate would be, let's say, rupees 60. Right? So if I calculate GDP of 2020 and take the prices of 2020, and if I calculate GDP of 2021 and take the prices of 2021, and if I calculate GDP of 2022 and take the prices of 2022, I will get a result. Let's say the economy produces just one pen. So the result would be GDP is 50. Here the result would be GDP is 55. And I may think that my GDP has increased by 10%. So I may think my economy has increased. My production has increased. My efficiency has increased. Now my economy is producing 10% more. But is that the case? No. My economy is producing exactly the same. Clear? So I will not get an exact understanding of my economy. Right? That is why I have to fix a base year. I have to fix a base year. So let's say this base year is fixed. Now, if I'm producing the same one single pen, so in 2021, when I fix the base year to this, here also my production is 50 only. Correct? This year also I am fixing it here only. This is fixed. Every year when I'm calculating GDP, I have fixed the prices of 2020 only. So here also my GDP would come out to be 50. And I will get to know that my economy's production has not increased. It has still remained the same. Okay? And then I can take corrective action to improve or increase my economy. Okay? So that is the reason you fix a base year and you keep on calculating the next year, subsequent year's GDP based on that base year only, so that you can compare whether actually your production is increasing or not. Agar aap har baar, if every time you keep on taking new year, your production will seem to be increasing when actually it is not increasing. It is only that the prices are going up. The same pen which was 50 has now become 55, has now become 60, right? So prices keep on increasing every year. That is why we keep a base year and calculate based on base year. And when you calculate based on base year, that GDP is called as real GDP. And when you calculate based on the same year, that GDP is nominal GDP. Okay? Very good. Quantity, हाँ, quantity matters. अगर हम 2 pen बनाएंगे, then the production is increased. है ना? Just the price is increasing, you are not doing anything. You are same efficient. Your efficiency is the same. ठीक है? Yes, you need to basically when you are taking it at the prices of base year, you are removing the effect of inflation. You are removing the effect of inflation. You are removing the effect of the increased prices. ठीक है? Clear? Sorry? Generally for entire, no. When you are calculating GDP, that base year is same for all the products and services. ठीक है? And base year, how a base year is selected? Base year is selected based on, it should be a normal year. Normal year, for example, you cannot have 2020 as the base year because COVID situation was there. So prices fluctuated due to an external factor. So you will not take that as a base year. Global financial crisis were there. You will not take this as a base year because this external thing has affecting it. 2011, no such externalities were there. So 2011 is one of the base years for calculating GDP. For some other index, you can have the base year as 2016. So it is basically a normal year. The most normal year is taken as the base year. और फिर वो चलता है 5-10 years it goes 5, 10, 15, 20 years, and then again they change the base year. Why do they change the base year after 10, 15 years? Because 10, 15 years is a too long period. Just imagine if you take 1950 as the base year, and if you would have kept this base year only till now, so comparison में मजा नहीं आता. You will not understand the comparison. You will say 1 आना, and now you will say 100 rupees. So you will not be able to compare properly. ठीक है? So right now we are doing this 2011. Maybe 2-3 years later, it will shift to 2016 or 2024. It will keep shifting. ठीक है? Sure. So nominal GDP, when you are calculating GDP of a particular year with the prices of that year only, upon real GDP, when you are calculating GDP of a year with respect to the prices of a base year. So nominal GDP upon real GDP is equals to GDP deflator. ये फॉर्मूला लिख लीजिए, GDP deflator. GDP deflator, generally it is there to calculate inflation. ठीक है? Nominal GDP upon real GDP is equals to GDP deflator. ठीक है? Now let's write down a bit. सबको सब समझ गया? Everyone has understood everything. Now let's write down a bit so that we know the definitions in words also. Write down first gross domestic product, GDP. Gross domestic product, GDP. GDP. It is the total value of all final goods and services. It is the total value of all final goods and services. It is the total value of all final goods and services produced within the boundary of a nation. Produced within the boundary of a nation during a financial year. During a financial year. And financial year in India is from 1st April to 31st March. Okay? It is the total value of all final goods and services produced within the boundary of a nation during a financial year. Okay? This is your GDP. Correct? Write down GNP, gross national product. Gross national product. It is the total value of all final goods and services. It is the total value of all final goods and services. It is the total value of all final goods and services produced by Indian nationals. Produced by Indian nationals. लिख रहे हो? Produced by Indian nationals during a financial year. Same. ठीक है, अब एनडीपी भी लिख दीजिए, नेट डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट. नेट डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट, एनडीपी, नेट डोमेस्टिक प्रोडक्ट. It is the GDP calculated after adjusting for depreciation. GDP calculated after adjusting for depreciation. ठीक है, फॉर्मूला लिख सकते हैं, NDP equals GDP minus depreciation. It is the GDP calculated after adjusting for depreciation. So NDP equals GDP minus depreciation. NDP equals GDP minus depreciation. In the same manner, NNP, net national product. Net national product. Net national product. It is GNP after adjusting for depreciation. Same. It is GNP after adjusting for depreciation. It is GNP after adjusting for depreciation. So NNP equals GNP minus depreciation. NNP equals GNP minus depreciation. ठीक है, चलो. So till now we have understood GDP and GNP separately. ठीक है, अब क्या करते हैं? Now we will understand them in terms of each other. ठीक है, now this is important. If you can understand this, this chapter is more or less done. So we understood GDP, we understood GNP. Now we have to understand both of them in relation to each other. ठीक है, so gross domestic product, now this will have Indian period. So this GDP component, GDP will have two components. ठीक है, हमारी definition क्या थी? What was the definition? The total final value of the goods and services produced within the boundary of India. Within the boundary of India was the deciding factor. Now within the boundary of India, anyone can create. Indian national can also create within the boundary of India. A foreigner can also create within the boundary of India. Correct? So GDP will have two components. The first component is Indian national producing within the boundary of India. Correct? Or there can be a foreigner producing within the boundary of India. So second component would be foreigner producing within the boundary of India. Clear? ये clear है? Now GNP, that is gross national product. This is distinguished by the fact that Indian national is producing it, whether in India or outside India, anywhere. When an Indian national produces, it becomes gross national product. Correct? So here, what will be the two components? The very first component would be Indian national producing within the boundary of India. And the second component would be, कुछ डाउट? देखिए, Gross national product is what? When an Indian national produces, no matter where they produce. So they can produce in India, they can produce outside, they can produce in USA, they can produce in Mars, anywhere. When an Indian national is producing, that forms the gross national product. ठीक है? मैंने बोला था, don't add anything from your side. What is the definition? See, what is the definition? Let me just remove this. Let me just remove this. Gross national product. What is gross national product? What is gross national product? The total final value of goods and services produced by Indian national, right? So when an Indian national produces in India, still it is gross national product. When Indian national produces in USA, still it is gross national product. When Indian national produces on Mars, still it is gross national product, right? अपने से कुछ ऐड नहीं करना है. So in gross, the idea is an Indian national should produce it. That's it. That is it. वो कैसे प्रोड्यूस करता है, किधर प्रोड्यूस करता है, does not matter. The only idea is an Indian national should produce it. Correct? So there would be two possibilities, right? What will be those two possibilities? Indian national. Don't worry that it is getting overlap. It will overlap. It will overlap, right? That is how we'll find the relation. So Indian national producing within the boundary of India. Isn't it a part of gross national product? Why? Because it is being produced by Indian national. It does not matter where it is produced. Correct? In the same manner, it's the same thing. Indian national producing within the boundary of India. Is this not a part of GDP? It is. Why? Because it is produced within the boundary of India. It does not matter who produces it. Correct? So this is the common factor between the two. Okay? Second component would be what? Indian national producing outside India. Outside India. Correct? And here what was it? Foreigner producing within the boundary. So देखिए यहाँ पे national है, यहाँ पे within the boundary is constant. ठीक है? Within the boundary होने चाहिए यहाँ पे, और यहाँ पे Indian national होना चाहिए. There should be within the boundary here, there should be Indian national here, right? So these are the two components. With respect to within the boundary, an Indian national can produce within the boundary, a foreigner can produce within the boundary. Correct? With respect to Indian national, an Indian national can produce within India, outside India. Okay? So when you write these two components, you get a common factor. What is that common factor? What is the common factor? This first is common. Indian national producing within the boundary of India, because यहाँ पे Indian national भी है and producing within India also. So it will be part of GDP as well as it will be part of GNP. Clear? So इतने हिस्से में with respect to this both are same. Then what is the differentiating factor? The second part. Correct? When the foreigner produces within the boundary of India, it forms GDP. When an Indian national produces on a foreign soil, it becomes GNP. So whether GDP is more or GNP is more will be decided by these two things. If more foreigners are producing more things in India and very less Indians are going abroad and producing, then GDP will become more. Correct? So GDP or GNP के relation में, in the relation between GDP and GNP, which is more will be decided by this particular thing. Whether this is more or this is more. Because ऊपर वाला तो common है. Correct? Clear? And foreigners producing within the boundary of India minus Indian national producing outside India is known as net income from abroad. this minus this is equals to net income from abroad. ठीक है? This, I'll make you write down, don't worry. This minus this is net income from abroad. Confusion हो गया? You know, clear है? The first top one is common, so it is not going to do anything. It cancels out each other. Which is bigger will be decided by these two factors, and the subtraction of these two is nothing but net income from abroad. Right? So relationship क्या बनेगा अभी? Relationship would be GDP equals GNP minus net income from abroad. ये हो गया आपका रिलेशनशिप. This is the formula. GDP equals GNP नहीं, वो प्लस हो सकता है. प्लस होगा तो आप उधर साइन चेंज कर दोगे. ये प्लस माइनस, चलो प्लस करके लिख लेते हैं. देखो प्लस में बड़ा सिंपल है, आप इसमें से इसमें माइनस करो या इसमें से इसमें माइनस करो, दैट विल डिफाइन वेदर देयर इज प्लस और माइनस. ठीक है? सो अच्छा हुआ दैट यू रेज दैट पॉइंट. सो लेट अस राइट डाउन इट एज प्लस, बिकॉज इन अ लॉट ऑफ बुक्स दे विल राइट इट एज प्लस. सो जीडीपी इक्वल्स जीएनपी प्लस, प्लस लिख दीजिए, एंड विल सॉल्व बेस्ड ऑन प्लस. प्लस नेट इनकम फ्रॉम अब्रॉड, plus net income from abroad. ठीक है? And what is net income from abroad? Net income from abroad will be how many foreigners come to India and produce within the boundary of India minus how many Indian nationals are producing outside India. ठीक है? अगर दोनों ये दोनों भी सेम हो गए तो फिर वो पूरा ही सेम हो जाएगा. But these two will not be same practically. Theoretically it is possible, practically it is not possible. Net income from abroad लिख लीजिए. Foreigners producing within India minus Indians producing in foreign countries. बस ज्यादा डिटेल में नहीं जाना. ठीक है? ठीक है? तो यहाँ पे क्या क्या पॉसिबिलिटीज हो सकती है? पॉसिबिलिटी कैन बी दिस इज 100, this is 90, so 100 greater than 90. This is 90, this is 100, so 90 less than 100. This is 100, this is 100. So either both can be equal, this can be more, this can be less. ये तीन possibility हो सकती है. So the possibility for GDP is also 3. Either it will be more than GNP, less than GNP, equal to GNP. So if a question comes that GDP is always greater than GNP, no. It can be more, less, or equal. GDP is always equal? No, it can be more, less, equal. GDP is always less? No, it can be more, equal, or less. All the possibilities are available in front of you. Questions ऐसे ही बनते हैं. The question would be GDP of a country is always greater than GNP. False. Because we know कुछ भी हो सकता है. ठीक है? Clear? लिख लीजिए if you have not written yet. and every one of you can start writing on unruled paper, huh? Because your answer sheets would be unruled answer sheets. आपको पता है यूपीएससी की आंसर शीट हाउ दे आर कैसी रहती है, बताइए. हाँ, ओके, सॉरी, ओके, वो तो है. व्हाट एल्स which is required for you to know? हाँ, questions are printed on it. ठीक है, questions are printed on it. So if this is the booklet you open, this is one side, this is another side. So of course, जैसा आपने बताया, there would be this margin and all, and UPSC would be written over here. This is margin and UPSC is written over here. So if this is the starting point, if this is your question 1, so question 1 would be written. ठीक है, and you would be given space. So there are 10 mark question of 150 words, and there are 15 mark question in GS. I am talking about 250 words. So for 150 words, 1.5 sides of the paper is there. So first 10 questions are 10 marks questions. The next 10 questions are 20 marks question. So first question of 10 marks, this entire is left, and this here you have question 2. ठीक है? So you have to write 150 words in 1.5 sheets of the paper. When it is 250, there will be 2.5 sheets of the paper. That is how it will be. So you have to manage the space properly. ठीक है? आप वैसी books में लिखने की आदत डालिए. So generally on one side of the paper, 100 words should properly come. So, and when you practice like that, then you don't have to count the words. You know, 100 words, 50 words, end of story. ठीक है? Also, one interesting question is, some people can write very fast. Some people can write small also, which is legible also. So many people may ask, sir, if instead of 150 words, if I write 300 words, then what? See, general answer would be you will lose your time. You will not have space. But let's say you are very fast, extremely fast. You can still write it. And space is not a problem because your writing is such, which is beautifully visible. Then should you write more words? Is it okay or is it not? Why not okay? ज़्यादा लिख रहे हो यार. What is the problem? It's no, हाँ ठीक है, सही, आप सही बोल रहे हो. See, the thing is, they want to check what you are going to tell them within 150 words. This is a limit. For example, if I ask you to describe your personality in one word, you will think a lot to tell what is that one word which can describe my personality. Now, if I say write 1200 words, you can write a lot. The moment I say describe your personality in 10 words, so आप 10 words में अपनी personality को कैसे describe करोगे? This is a task, right? This is a task for you to describe your personality in 10 words. It is a different task than describing your personality in 1200 words. So UPSC is checking you to answer that particular question within 150 words. The moment you cross 200 and you go so beyond, then what they want to test, they cannot test, right? So you have to maintain the word limit. Even if you are faster, even if you write small, whatever it is, please make sure you maintain the word limit. And here also you maintain the word limit. Of course, plus minus 5% leeway is there. So you can basically, 155, 160 words you can write, or even 140, 145 words you can write, not a problem over here. And here also you can write around 240 to 260 words, not a problem. But don't go beyond that. Don't be very less than that. Don't be very more than that. ठीक है? Sure. ठीक है. Let's write down two more things which we studied: nominal GDP and real GDP. Write down. ये relation सबको समझा? GDP and GNP relation, everyone understood? Very good. Now write down nominal GDP. Nominal GDP. It is the total value of final goods and services total value of final goods and services in the current year, total value of final goods and services in the current year based on the prices existing in the same year, based on the prices existing in the same year, based on the prices existing in the same year. ठीक है, this is nominal GDP. Next is real GDP. It is the total value of final goods and services. It is the total value of final goods and services it is the total value of final goods and services of a particular year, of a particular year, of a particular year, based on the prices, based on the prices of a specified base year, based on the prices of a specified base year, based on the prices of a specified base year, based on the prices of specified base year. ठीक है, अभी every time I'm saying final value of goods and services, I'm mentioning the word final. Let's see why I'm mentioning that word final. ठीक है, and we'll try to calculate the GDP also. Later on, there are three different methods. One is value added method, one is income method, one is expenditure method. We'll look them in detail. But right now, let us understand why I am saying final all the time. So let's say that an economy produces what I'm writing. This is the entire economy. Okay. So let's say it produces 1 kg of wheat. Okay. 1 kg of wheat is produced. Let's say it is produced at rupees 20. Okay. Now you can either consume that wheat, or that wheat can go into an atta chakki, flour mill. So then it will be converted into 1 kg of flour. Now it costs rupees 30, for example. Then this flour goes into a bakery for getting converted into dough and then getting converted into bread ultimately. So 1 kg of flour will give you 1 kg of bread. That means around 3 packets of bread. 3 packets of bread. Right? Let's say rupees 150. It's the same wheat, huh? It's the same wheat, nothing extra. 1 kg wheat converted into 1 kg flour, converted into 3 packets of bread. This goes to the restaurant and gets converted into sandwiches. So let's say 30 sandwiches. Okay. 30 sandwiches, 200 rupees. 200, 300, 3,000. 6,000 rupees. ठीक है, 6,000 कैसे? I took each sandwich to be of 200 rupees. ठीक है, 200 rupees. महंगा हो गया क्या ज्यादा? 100 कर देते. Rupees 3,000. 100 rupees each sandwich, so rupees 3,000. Now, the economy has produced only this. My question is, what is the, and it is produced within the boundary of India. This is only this is produced within the boundary of India. So my question is, what is the GDP? चलो calculate करो GDP और बताइए what is the GDP? Huh? Someone with the right answer? Okay, 3,180. Okay, good. Close, you are close. 3,200, good. So 3,000. First you answered 3,000 also, right? So 3,000, then you said 3,000. Then I said, please give me the right answer. So you changed it to 3,180. Then I said you are close. So then he said 3,200. Right? Yahan se answer aa rahe hai. There's no one answering from here. Huh? देखो समझ में आ गया बोलता हूं तो सब बोलते हैं हाँ समझ में आ गया. When I ask you guys, you understood, everyone is like, yes, I understood. Now you need to be able to implement it. If you can implement it, then your concepts are absolutely clear. Yeah? Okay, good. I already have that answer, but still now I have not have the right answer. 3,130. So when I'm saying I don't have the right answer, I'm getting different answers also. 3,130. Okay. Yes, please answer. It's okay to give wrong answers. 3,000. Okay. 3,000 is there. Yes. अच्छा आपने बोल दिया already, right? हाँ. ठीक है. So those who are saying 3,180, 3,200, 3,130, how? चलो 3,200 मुझे समझ में आता है. This mistake is acceptable. But why are you saying 3,180? You are removing just this. That's calculating everything, right? So I have been saying what? I have been saying it is the total value, total final value of goods and services. Final value. So simply, since this wheat is getting converted into flour, this flour is getting converted into bread, this bread is getting converted into sandwich. So simply you take the value of these 30 sandwiches, which is the GDP. This is the GDP. The total value of final goods and services, final value. So final value kya hoti hai? It is the value of the final goods and services. Is this a final good? No. Final good is a good which gets consumed, right? It does not get involved in the next process. That would be final good. If, let's say, that is why the importance of processing. That is why Indian government is talking about mega food parks, food processing units. Why are we talking about that? That is because, let's say you just produce wheat of rupees 20 and you consume that wheat. Your GDP is what? GDP is only 20 rupees. But you do not stop there. You convert it into flour. The flour get converted into bread, converted into sandwiches. Now your GDP is what? 3,000. Why? Because you processed all these things. Okay? Is this a final good? No, it's not a final good. Why? Because you are not consuming it. You are sending it to the next stage for processing. So is this the final good? No, this is also not the final good. Why? Because it is getting processed into bread. Is this the final good? This is also not a final good because it is getting processed into sandwich. Now sandwich is getting consumed by the people. So this will become a final product. Okay? So this would be your GDP. There is another way of, this is basically you taking the total final value of the goods. There is another way to calculate GDP. The other way to calculate GDP is, sorry? Very good. Exactly. The other way is value added method. So value added method, let us see how we can do it for value added method. In value added method, let's see what happens. What is the value added here at this stage? 20. 0 tha, 0 se direct 20 hua. 20 is the value added. What is the value added here? 10. 10. Value added is 10. This 30 consists of this 20. So the value added is 30 minus 20. That is 10. What is the value added here? 120. Right? What is the value added here? Correct? Value added is 2,850. Now add it. 20 plus 10 plus 120 plus 2,850. Again, the answer would be the same. Rupees 3,000. Okay? So either you take the final good, its value, or you keep adding the values at different stages. If you add this 20 completely, then this 30 completely, then this 150 completely, then this 3000 completely, you will get 3200, which will be an error, because this 30 already has 20 rupees in it. So you have added 20 additionally. This 150 already has 30. So you have added 30 additionally. This 3000 already has this 150. So you are adding 150 additionally. So total 200 additional you will add. That will be the error. So don't do that. You either add just the value or just take the final goods which is produced in an economy.
GDP doesn't include any vegetables or bread, whatever jam, butter they are adding in that bread. So how is getting known?
इसमें included है ना, ये 150 से 3000 कैसे हुआ? You need not produce that in India. You can import that. So we have taken an example of economy consisting of this only. Now there is a flour mill which was utilized. So there would be some depreciation also. All that thing is happening. Here also there would be potatoes, this, that, everything. That is why the value has increased, right? But that potatoes, tomatoes, etc., you need not produce. You can import it also. Clear? You can import it also. So that's why we have taken a very simplistic example of an economy. Just to understand how do we get the GDP. Either you take the final product or you just keep on adding the values at different stages which is getting added. Okay?
They are getting produced separately, so they also get added in GDP. So along with this, and that will be also added. So
वो add करके ही तो ये 3000 हुआ ना. You have added potatoes, that's why this is 3000. See, please understand, if 150 rupees is your bread and the material and the service and everything is like 2850, you add this and you got 3000. You cannot have 3000 rupees sandwich plus add the potatoes and excess separately. It is whatever you are saying, it is a part of this. ठीक है? It's a part of this. नहीं तो वो again double counting हो जाएगी. Again it will be double counting. ठीक है?
Generally products get used in multiple stages, lot of products.
हाँ.
So how the government knows that?
That is why when we calculate GDP, we'll realize that there are a lot of errors which happens in GDP. So the GDP, when it is calculated, anyhow, it gets calculated only with respect to the organized sector, because you know exactly with respect to organized sector, with respect to the invoices that is created, the revenue that is generated. The unorganized sector will be left out completely and the government will not know about it. So that would be the error in calculation of GDP. There are other errors also. Black money cannot be accounted for. You don't know it. It is estimated around 50% of Indian economy is black economy. So 50% error is already there in GDP, for example. Okay? So all these errors would be present. We will do that when we do calculation of GDP. Okay? Clear? This is clear to everyone? Sure. Now, so we understood GDP, GNP, we took GDP, nominal GDP and real GDP, right? Now you can have more different GDPs also. You can have GDP at market prices and GDP at factor cost. This is market prices. And you can have GDP at factor cost also. So to understand GDP at market price and GDP at factor cost, we should first understand what is market price and what is factor cost. Correct? So write down market price. Sorry? This is types. This is different types. So not types of GDP, but GDP being calculated at different prices. Different prices. When I explain this, it will be clear why we are calculating all this. Okay. So first write down market price. First write down market price. It is the actual transaction prices of goods and services. It is the actual transaction prices of goods and services. It is the actual transaction prices of goods and services including the indirect taxes, bracket, that increases the prices. It is the actual transaction prices of goods and services, including indirect taxes, bracket, that increase prices. ठीक है? And subsidies, bracket, that reduce prices, लिखा? क्या लिखा है? It is the actual transaction prices of goods and services, including indirect taxes that increase the prices and subsidies that reduce the prices. ये लिखा है ना? This is market prices. I'll explain. पहले लिख लो. Second is factor cost. Next is factor cost. Write down. It consists of cost of all factors of production. It consists of cost of all factors of production. Consumed in producing goods and services. It consists of cost of all factors of production consumed in producing goods and services. ठीक है? ठीक है, अब फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन क्या होते हैं लिख लीजिए. बेसिकली आई विल जस्ट टेल यू कि द फैक्टर्स ऑफ प्रोडक्शन आर लैंड, लेबर, कैपिटल एंड एंटरप्रेन्योरशिप. Right? So for land, basically the amount is rent. Here you have wages, here you have interest, here you have profit. So to produce any particular thing, these are the factors of production that would be required, and these are the associated cost of those factors of production that would be required. ठीक है? So when you take into account only the cost of these factor of production, that gives you the factor cost. ठीक है? Factor cost में क्या है? However, whatever rent you paid, whatever wages you paid, whatever interest you paid, whatever profit you generated, all this would be under factor cost. This is your factor cost. ठीक है? Market price में क्या हो रहा है? When you go to a shop and you purchase a particular thing, you get it at certain price. That price is market price. Is that same as factor cost? No, it will not be same as factor cost. Why? Because this factor cost which was there, the profit is there, but what is happening? We said this market price will have indirect taxes. Indirect taxes डाल दिया आपने, right? Plus subsidies भी डाल दिया आपने. So let's say a product is of 100 rupees. And the government puts indirect tax of 18%, right? So the product becomes of 118 rupees. Let's say indirect tax is 18% and subsidy is 0. So this is the cost of the product, right? If let me write it better. So factor cost was, let's say factor cost was rupees 100. Now case 1, indirect tax equals 10%. Case 2, subsidy equals 10%. Case 3, indirect tax equals rupees 10, subsidy equals rupees 5. ठीक है, अब देखते हैं क्या होगा. So in case 1 where indirect tax is 10%, so what is the market price? 110. ठीक है, because there is no subsidy. Here subsidy is 10%. So what is the market price? 90. Here 10 rupees indirect tax, 5 rupees subsidy. What is the market price? Kitna? 10. So how are we getting market price? Market price is equals to factor cost, right? Factor cost. We are adding the indirect taxes and we are subtracting the subsidies. Okay? We are adding the indirect taxes. In definition I wrote, it includes, market price includes indirect taxes, which increases the price. So how will the price increase? When you add the indirect taxes. And subsidy, what the subsidy does? It lowers the price. The government provides subsidy to lower the price. So that is why we remove the effect of subsidy, minus subsidy. So this, अच्छे से लिखते हैं इसको, market price is equals to factor cost plus indirect taxes minus subsidies. Market price equals factor cost plus indirect taxes minus subsidies. ठीक है? That is your relation between market price and factor cost. So when you calculate GDP at market price, you will have add indirect taxes and reduce the subsidies. ठीक है? इसी तरह से फिर फैक्टर कॉस्ट अगर आपको कैलकुलेट करना हो, फैक्टर कॉस्ट इक्वल्स व्हाट? मार्केट प्राइस माइनस इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस प्लस सब्सिडीज. So now in question they can give you in this form or this form, both are same. हाँ, फैक्टर कॉस्ट इज एक्चुअली में कितना पैसा लगा उसको बनाने में. फैक्टर कॉस्ट इज एक्चुअली हाउ मच मनी यू रिक्वायर टू क्रिएट इट. नाउ व्हेन यू ऐड इनडायरेक्ट टैक्सेस इट आर्टिफिशियली इंक्रीजेस द प्राइस. व्हेन यू ऐड सब्सिडी इट आर्टिफिशियली लोअर्स द प्राइस. ठीक है, करेक्ट. Written? This is written? Okay. Now, there's another, in GDP, we add all the production of goods and services, everything. But there is one thing we do not add, that is transfer payments. So write down the concept of transfer payments. Transfer payments. Write down, it is the disbursements by government. It is the disbursements by government. Disbursement. Basically distribution. It is the disbursement by the government. It is the disbursement by government to individuals or a group of individuals. It is the disbursement by government to individuals or a group of individuals without the recipient providing any economic output. Without the recipient providing any economic output. It is the disbursement by the government to individuals or group of individuals without the recipient. Matlab, these individuals who are there, without the recipients providing any economic output. They are not providing any economic output. Government free mein de rahi hai. You don't have to do any work for that. That is your transfer payment. And this transfer payment is not taken into account in GDP. Example of this transfer payment is old age pension. ठीक है, ओल्ड एज पेंशन हो गया, स्कॉलरशिप हो गई. देयर इज अ कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ यूनिवर्सल बेसिक इनकम. So whenever the government transfers any money and does not the recipient does not do any economic activity for getting that money is your transfer payment, and that transfer payment is not considered in GDP. Why is it not considered in GDP? Okay, there's no economic, because this particular money which is being given is already accounted for. There might have been some production, some taxes which the government got revenue, so it got all those money. Now if the government utilizes this money, let's say, to develop roads, so then they will have to pay salary, and that would be a part of GDP. Why? Because someone is working and producing roads, so then it will be a part of GDP. But if the government thinks of giving everyone 14 lakh rupees for free, right, so then this money would not be a part of GDP. Why? Because the government is not asking anything in return. You are not producing anything. It is given as a dole, as a free thing to you. Okay? Since there is no production, there it will not be a part of the GDP. Okay? But when the government gives as a salary to the government employees, when the government buys certain raw materials to produce certain things, then it will be a part of GDP, because something is getting produced. But when there is no economic activity, that payment is called as transfer payment, and it will not be a part of GDP. Clear hai? Is this clear? Now, I said that you use GDP to compare different economies. Kaun si economy kitni badi hai, which economy is big, how big we are, how big we can become, so on and so forth. But the problem is, you cannot directly compare GDP. You have to bring in a concept of purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity. I'll explain what this concept is, and then we'll write it down also. So right now, $1 is trading at around 82 rupees. So let's consider $1 equals rupees 80. You know, so we think, my God, dollar is so powerful. $1 is actually 80 rupees, right? But if you take its power to purchase, then dollar is not that powerful. What do I mean by that? In India, with 80 rupees, let's say you can, of a particular quality ice cream, you can buy. You can buy a particular quality ice cream in 80 rupees in India. Now to buy the same quality ice cream in USA, you should get it at $1. Then only $1 is equal to 80 rupees. But in USA, you may be required to spend around $4 to get the same quality ice cream. Okay? That means what? That means purchasing power wise, $1 is not equal to 80 rupees. $1 is actually equal to only 20 rupees. Why? Because to purchase 80 rupees worth of ice cream, which you can get in 80 rupees in India, you are required to pay $4. So क्या हो गया basically? $4 हो गया 80 rupees के बराबर. $4 has become equal to 80 rupees. That means $1 is actually 20 rupees worth. So why is this difference? This difference because this $1 80 rupees is the market rate. It is the trading rate. It is the rate at which this currency is being traded in the market. But if you use this currency to buy something, the purchasing power of dollar is 1/4 of this. So how is that difference coming? This difference is coming due to the demand and supply. Because everyone demands dollars, right? Since everyone demands dollars, its value has artificially increased. I'll give you another example to understand this. Right now, Mahindra share is trading at around rupees 450, right? Now, if Mahindra decides to close its company and pay its shareholders, so let's say you have one share. So when Mahindra closes its company and pays you for the share you are holding, Mahindra will not pay 450 rupees. You may be getting close to 200 to 250 rupees only, because that is the actual value of that Mahindra share. Then why has it become 450? Because this is trading on the stock market. Since this is trading on the stock market, what happened is a lot of people want those shares, right? So since a lot of people want those shares, its price keeps on going up. बहुत सारे लोगों को चाहिए. You are selling it in 450. There are people to buy it at 450. Tomorrow there will be people to buy it at 460. There will be people buy at 500, and the share price will keep on going up. But the actual value of the share is somewhere here. It's way lower. So why it has increased so much? Because of the demand, because everyone wants it. They are thinking the company is going to do better and better in the future, and they can buy it. And then, let's say 1 year later, when the price further goes to 550, they know they can sell it off in the stock market. So due to these so many huge transactions going on, so much of demand of this share, that is why the price of this share has gone up. But the actual value of share is way less than what is there in the market, which is trading, right? In the same manner, since people demand so much of dollar, they trade in dollar. Import export happens in dollar, right? Because of which $1 is equal to 80 rupees. But if you actually go and buy certain thing, the value is less. ठीक है? So इससे क्या पता चलता है? इससे ये पता चलता है कि if we are producing 1 trillion dollar worth of GDP, and let's say USA is also producing 1 trillion, but ours is in rupees, so you have to multiply it by 4. It is 4 times more in terms of purchasing power. समझ में आया logic? So if you calculate GDP, India would be at around 10th or 12th position. But the moment you take purchasing power parity concept, India goes to 3rd position. ठीक है? Clear? International. International only. This is the World Bank data. So considering purchasing power parity, we are, vying for 3rd and 4th position. If you do not take that into account, we are 10th, 12th, beyond 10th level. Okay? So I'll tell you why this is happening. This is happening because, let's say, USA has a GDP of $4. We have a GDP of 80 rupees. Now, as per market exchange rate, this 80 rupees is what? $1, right? So our GDP should come around $1. But the moment you add the purchasing power parity factor, our GDP is how much? $4, right? So it gets multiplied by a factor of 3 to 4. So if your GDP is X, it gets multiplied by 3. It becomes 3X. So in terms of purchasing power parity, India is at, now I think it was 4th, now it has reached 3rd level. So 2 years back, there was a question in UPSC which asked, one of the statement was, India is 4th in terms of GDP PPP, purchasing power parity. So they clearly mentioned in terms of purchasing power parity. In terms of purchasing power parity, we are higher. Clear ho gaya ye? Write down purchasing power parity. Purchasing power parity bracket PPP लिख लीजिए. It is the conversion rate of currency of any country. It is the conversion rate of currency of any country It is the conversion rate of currency of any country to the currency of another country. It is the conversion rate of currency of any country to the currency of another country, so that the same particular product or service can be purchased. So that the same particular product or service can be purchased in each of these countries. So that the same particular product can be purchased in each of the countries. ठीक है? ठीक है? So I think that's about it for today's class. In the next class, we'll start with methods of calculating GDP. ठीक है? चलो. Thank you guys. Revise कर लीजिएगा whatever we have studied today. In the next class, I want one doubt from each one of you. लिख के लाइएगा book में doubt, so that you cannot say, sir, I had the same doubt. It should be written in your book. ठीक है? चलो. Thank you.